My name is Leo Chun, and I'm just your average, perfectly unremarkable college guy. My life was supposed to be a simple loop of classes, video games, and shooting the shit with my buddies. That is, until I got a new desk mate, Chloe Jiang. She was the officially recognized campus beauty queen. The kind of girl who looked so pure and harmless, who spoke in such a soft, gentle voice. She seemed more timid than a rabbit. Everyone thought she was a total pushover. Only I knew the truth. Underneath that gentle exterior was a meticulously organized psycho with an ice-cold, logical mind and a ruthless streak. She never raised her voice, never threw a punch. But she could use a beautifully printed behavioral analysis report to cause the virtue-signaling class president to suffer a complete social death in front of everyone. She could use a schedule plan down to the second to make a mooching roommate cry while taking out the trash. She could use a recording, terrifying in its clarity, to obliterate a two-faced gossip and bury her reputation 6 feet under. She didn't hold grudges, because she got her revenge on the spot. She didn't care about feelings. Her only gods were rules and evidence. This is my observation journal, a chronicle of how I watched a delicate little flower tear apart every weirdo and creep in her path, eventually evolving into the T-Rex at the top of the campus food chain. Whatever you do, don't mess with her, because you never know what kind of insane, meticulously documented proof she'll pull out just to shut you up. On the first day of the semester, I got a new desk mate, Chloe Jiang. The name itself sounded quiet and elegant, and she was sitting there silently in a simple sundress that looked like it had been washed 100 times, holding a textbook thick enough to kill a man. Her skin was pale, her hair long and black. When she looked down, you could see the delicate line of her neck. A lot of guys in the class were sneaking glances at her, myself included. What can I say? Who doesn't like looking at a pretty girl? Our advisor was at the front of the room, droning on about the new semester's policies. It was putting me to sleep, but Chloe was listening with rapt attention, occasionally jotting things down in a notebook. I stole a look. Her handwriting was as neat and graceful as she was. All right, one last thing, the advisor said, clearing his throat. Our classmate, Kevin Zhang, is going through a tough time. His father is in the hospital, and they're having trouble with the medical bills. As his classmates, we should help each other out. The class leadership has decided to organize a fundraiser. Please give what you can and show some support. The second he finished, our class president, Mark Lee, stood up. He was a big, imposing guy with a permanent expression of self-righteousness. Everyone, Kevin is one of us. His problem is our problem. I propose we all donate at least $10, and those who can afford more should. I'll start with 50. He pulled 2 20s and a 10 from his wallet and dropped them into the donation box on the podium. A chorus of agreement immediately filled the room. Mark's right. No problem. $10 it is. I'll do 20. The atmosphere was suddenly charged with manufactured goodwill. Mark grabbed a clipboard and started going row by row, recording names and amounts. Soon enough, he got to us. The students ahead of me all pitched in 10s and 20s. When it was my turn, I didn't think twice and handed over a $10 bill. Leo Chun, 10. Got it. Mark checked it off and then turned his gaze to Chloe. The entire classroom seemed to fall silent for a beat. Every eye in the room, intentionally or not, landed on the new girl who was almost unfairly beautiful. Chloe, how about you? Mark's tone carried the unmistakable weight of someone weaponizing school spirit. Chloe slowly looked up. She glanced at Mark, then at the red donation box. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was perfectly clear. I won't be donating. 3 words, like stones dropped into a still pond. Mark's face froze. He clearly hadn't expected that answer. He frowned. Chloe, we're all in this together. Kevin's family is really struggling. Yes, I'm aware, she said with a nod, her expression unchanged. But I'm still not donating. Whispers started rippling through the classroom. Seriously? That's so cheap. She can't even spare $10. She looks so sweet, but damn, she's cold. Sitting next to her, I felt a wave of secondhand embarrassment. Was this girl completely clueless? Offending the class president and basically everyone else on her first day? Mark's face darkened. He raised his voice. Chloe, are you having financial difficulties? If you are, you can tell us. But this is a group activity, and I hope you won't be so uncooperative. That was a low blow, basically using the pressure of the group to strong-arm her. I figured this was the point where she'd cave, either grudgingly handing over the money or tearing up and saying she was broke too. But she didn't. Instead of panicking, Chloe calmly reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. She stood up. She wasn't tall, but when she stood straight, her entire presence shifted. She opened the folder, took out several neatly printed sheets of A4 paper, walked to the podium, and handed one to Mark. Mark, I have 3 reasons for not donating. Her voice was still perfectly calm, without a trace of anger. First, according to federal nonprofit regulations, an organization or individual must have official 501(c)(3) status to conduct a public fundraiser. A university class is not a registered legal entity, and this fundraiser you've personally initiated is, procedurally speaking, illegal. Mark's face went pale. Second, Chloe produced another sheet, this one a spreadsheet. I looked into it last night. Kevin's father has chronic kidney disease. While this does require long-term treatment, their health insurance plan, according to our state's coverage mandate, covers the majority of the costs. I've listed the detailed co-pays and out-of-pocket maximums here. Based on a worst-case scenario estimate, the family's current financial liability is approximately $5,000. She paused, her eyes sweeping over the class. There are 42 people in our class. Even if everyone donates $10, that's $420. How much of an impact will that have on a $5,000 bill? Will it get his dad discharged? Will it cure him? This feels less like effective aid and more like feel-good virtue signaling. The classroom was dead silent. I stared at the spreadsheet in her hand, dense with numbers and policy references, and felt a chill run down my spine. Is this girl a demon? She prepped all this last night. Third, Chloe took out a final sheet and handed it to our stunned advisor. And most importantly, last Friday, Kevin posted on his Instagram story showing off his brand new PS5, which retails for $500. On Saturday night, he rented a private room at the karaoke bar downtown for a dozen of his friends, a party that would have cost at least $200. I have screenshots of his posts, as well as the contact information for the bar's manager who was on duty that night. She turned back to Mark, her gaze holding a flicker of something I couldn't quite place, maybe pity. You say his family is in trouble, and I sympathize. But does the logic of a person buying expensive gaming consoles and throwing parties while his classmates have to donate money for his father's medical bills seem off to you? Therefore, she closed the folder and gave the class a slight bow. Based on these 3 points, I refuse to participate in this procedurally illegal, inefficient, and motivationally questionable charity drive. I'm finished. Thank you. With that, she walked back to her seat, sat down, and picked up her massive textbook as if nothing had happened. As if the person who had just systematically, surgically dismantled the class president and our advisor wasn't her at all. The room was utterly, completely silent. I looked at Chloe beside me, peacefully turning a page, her long eyelashes casting a small shadow on her cheek. Holy crap, I thought. This wasn't a little white rabbit. This was a goddamn Tyrannosaurus Rex wearing a rabbit suit. The aftermath of the donation fiasco was that Mark quietly canceled the fundraiser and returned all the money. The next day, Kevin Zhang dropped out for the semester. The rumor was he was too embarrassed to show his face on campus again. And Chloe? She became a legend overnight. The way people looked at her changed. It was a mixture of respect and raw fear. No one dared to talk to her anymore. Except me. I was her desk mate, after all. We were stuck with each other. And I discovered she was actually pretty easy to get along with, as long as you left her alone. Her daily routine was as precise as a robot's. Class, library, dorm. A perfect triangle. No makeup, no shopping, no gossip. I thought that as long as no one deliberately crossed her lines, this T-Rex would stay disguised as a bunny forever. I was wrong. The next problem erupted from inside her own dorm room. I heard about it from one of the girls in our major. Apparently, one of Chloe's roommates, a girl named Lily Bai, was the epitome of damsel in distress. She was always clinging to Chloe, calling her Chlo, and making it seem like they were the best of friends. Lily's one major flaw was that she was lazy, epically lazy. Trash would pile up on her desk for days until it started to smell, at which point she'd turn to Chloe with a pout. Chlo, I'm not feeling so good today. Could you take this out for me? Love you. Dirty socks would soak in a basin for a week until they grew mold, and she'd whine, Chlo, I have cramps, my stomach hurts so bad. I really can't wash these. Can you help me? At first, Chloe didn't say anything. She took out the trash and washed the socks. Seeing that her tactics worked, Lily doubled down. Soon, Lily was leaving her daily dorm, cleaning duties to Chloe, too. Her excuses were endless. One day it was a headache, the next a stomachache, or sometimes she was just not in the mood. The other 2 roommates couldn't stand it and warned Chloe that Lily was just using her. Chloe would just smile and say, it's fine. It's no trouble. When word of this got out, people started to think that maybe Chloe was just a person with strong principles on certain issues but a soft heart in daily life. The donation thing was just about her sense of right and wrong. When it came to everyday stuff, she was still a nice, agreeable person. Even I was starting to believe it. Until last Wednesday. That day, Lily's boyfriend was coming to visit, and she was getting ready for a date. Before leaving, she dumped a week's worth of dirty laundry on Chloe's desk, deploying her standard line. Chloe, I'm going on a date. I don't have time to do laundry, please. I'll bring you back boba tea. Then, dressed to the nines, she flounced out the door. The other two roommates were furious, saying they were going to chase her down and make her wash her own clothes. But Chloe stopped them, still with that impossibly calm expression. Don't bother. I'll handle this. There were no classes that afternoon. I was on my way to the library when I saw Chloe walking out of her dorm building, carrying a huge plastic garbage bag. The bag was bulging and emitted an odor so foul, it was almost tangible. Curious, I asked her, Chloe, what you up to? She smiled at me. It was a beautiful smile, but for some reason, it sent a shiver down my spine. Going to the dry cleaners, she said. I was confused. Were Lily's nasty clothes really worth dry cleaning? That evening, I ran into one of her other roommates, Zoe Zhou, at the dining hall. The moment she saw me, she pulled me aside and asked conspiratorially, Hey, Leo, did you see Chloe this afternoon? Yeah, she said she was going to the dry cleaners. Zoe slapped her thigh, her face a mask of dramatic glee. Holy crap, she actually did it. You have no idea what happened next. According to Zoe, Chloe had marched that bag of what smelled like a low-grade bioweapon straight to the most expensive dry cleaner near campus. She plopped the bag on the counter and told the owner, These clothes, I want them cleaned. Use your most expensive, premium service. Rush order. I need them back tonight. The owner opened the bag, took one look, and nearly passed out. But, being a professional, he held his nose and started sorting. One t-shirt, $5. A pair of jeans, $8. A pair of socks, $3. A pile of underwear, $15. All told, with the rush fee and the premium service charge, the grand total came to $188.80. Chloe didn't even blink. She paid with her phone, took the receipt, and left. At 7 o'clock that evening, Lily and her boyfriend were strolling back to the dorm, all lovey-dovey, when the delivery guy from the dry cleaner arrived with the clothes, all washed, pressed, and beautifully packaged. The delivery guy handed the invoice to Lily. Miss, that'll be $188.80. If you could just settle the bill. Lily was floored. She stared at the enormous bill, then at her equally stunned boyfriend, and her face went green. Just then, Chloe emerged from the dorm, holding another printed A4 sheet of paper. She handed it to Lily, smiling sweetly. Lily, here's an itemized list of every time you've asked me to take out your trash, wash your socks, and cover your cleaning duties for the past month. I've tallied it up for you. In total, trash taken out 23 times, socks washed 12 pairs, cleaning duties covered 8 times. I consulted the market rates for local cleaning services, Chloe said, pointing to the line items. Trash removal is $2 per bag. Sock washing is $5 per pair, and general cleaning is $10 per session. That comes to a total of $186. She then tapped the dry cleaner's invoice. Add to that the laundry fee of $188.80. So, the total amount you owe me is $374.80. Of course, Chloe's smile widened. Since we're roommates, I can give you a 10% discount. So you can just Venmo me $337.32. That works. The expression on Lily's boyfriend's face, Zoe said, was worse than if he'd eaten literal shit. He probably never knew that his delicate little girlfriend who needed so much protection was a complete slob in the dorm. Lily's face was beet red, her lips trembling. Chloe, what? What is this? Aren't we friends? Isn't it normal for friends to help each other out? Chloe's smile vanished, her eyes now perfectly placid. Lily, the definition of friendship is mutual respect and mutual effort. It is not one person treating another like a free maid. Helping you is a favor, not an obligation. But when you started taking my favors for granted and pushing for more, you can't blame me for settling the account. I want every single cent of this. You can refuse to pay. If you do, this invoice and this list of services rendered will be on the school's public bulletin board tomorrow morning. The choice is yours. With that, Chloe turned and went back upstairs, leaving Lily, her boyfriend, and a pile of very expensive, very clean clothes to twist in the evening breeze. That night, my entire dorm was passing around a picture of the invoice that Zoe had secretly taken. Looking at the calculations, precise down to the penny, we all came to one conclusion. You can piss off anyone, but don't piss off a top student. Especially a top student who knows how to use Excel. After the Lily incident, peace finally descended upon Chloe's dorm room. Apparently, Lily sent the money that very night, and from then on, did all her own chores more diligently than anyone. Chloe's formidable reputation was now cemented in our department. Behind her back, everyone called her the human calculator or the AI, meaning she was a person devoid of emotion. running only on logic and data. I thought it was a good thing. At least now no one would bother her. But there are always those who are clueless enough to challenge the AI. This time, it was the captain of our department's debate team, Alex Zhao. Alex was a fast talker, full of himself, and truly believed he was the embodiment of truth. The university was holding its annual Freshman Cup debate tournament, and he was scouting for talent. For some reason that defied all logic, he set his sights on Chloe. He found her in the library, deep into a book titled An Introduction to Quantum Physics. "Chloe," Alex began, striking what he thought was a cool pose against the bookshelf. "I saw your speech at the class meeting about the donation drive. Your logic was clear, your argument solid. You're a natural debater. Are you interested in joining the team?" Chloe didn't even look up. "Not interested. Don't be so quick to refuse," Alex pressed. "The winners of this tournament get a $500 prize and 2 academic credits. It will be a great boost for your scholarship applications." Chloe turned a page. "My grades don't need the boost. As for the $500, I can make more than that tutoring in the time I'd spend on debate." Alex was completely thrown. His ego clearly bruised, his tone hardened. "Chloe, you can't just think about yourself. This is about bringing honor to our department. As a member of this department, shouldn't you contribute?" There was again the old collective honor guilt trip. I was sitting nearby and had already started to say a silent prayer for the debate captain. Sure enough, Chloe closed her book. She looked up at Alex, her eyes as calm as a frozen lake. "Alex, my joining the debate team would not benefit you or the team as a whole. I suggest you find someone else." "Why?" Alex asked, unconvinced. "You think our team isn't good enough?" "No." Chloe shook her head. "It's because our fundamental logics of debate are not on the same level." "What does that mean?" Chloe stood up and pulled a book off the shelf, a primer on formal logic. "The essence of debate is to use logic and facts to prove whether a viewpoint is right or wrong. Its core is the pursuit of truth." She opened the book and pointed to a page. "But the kind of debate tournaments you participate in have a different core, the pursuit of victory. You don't care if a viewpoint is correct. You only care about how to use fancy rhetoric, logical fallacies, and emotional appeals to defeat your opponent and please the judges. Let me give you an example," Chloe said, looking at Alex. "If the topic is human nature inherently good or evil, and you draw the good side, but deep down, you believe human nature is evil, what would you do?" Alex paused for a second, then answered with complete conviction. "Of course I would defend my team's position. I'd gather all the evidence I could to prove humanity is good and attack the flaws in my opponent's argument. See, that's the difference between us." Chloe put the book back. "If it were me, I would concede the debate." Alex laughed as if he'd just heard the funniest joke in the world. "Concede? Chloe, you don't understand debate at all." "No, it's you who treats debate as a performance." Chloe's voice turned cold. "To argue passionately for a point you don't even believe in is, to me, a waste of time and a desecration of the truth. I cannot force myself to prove something I believe is false." "You?" Alex's face turned beet red. "That's sophistry. That's academic arrogance." "Whether it's arrogance or not, we can test it right now," Chloe suddenly proposed. "How?" "Simple. Should I join the debate team? As our topic. You're the affirmative, I'm the negative. No complex rules, just a simple Q&A. If you can convince me, I'll join without another word." Alex's eyes lit up. This was his home turf. In his mind, using his greatest skill to persuade a stubborn girl was a slam dunk. "Deal. You're on." The other students in the library, who had been pretending to read, now subtly closed in to watch the show. Alex cleared his throat and launched his first attack. "Chloe, you have excellent grades and you're a great speaker. Joining the debate team would allow you to better use your talents and bring glory to our community. Why wouldn't you want to contribute your skills to the collective? Isn't that a form of selfishness?" Wow, he went straight for the selfish label. Chloe was unfazed. "Alex, first, please define collective. Are we talking about our entire department or the small group that is the debate team?" "Alex, the debate team, of course, which in turn represents the entire department." Chloe nodded. "All right, then what is the primary goal of this collective, the debate team?" "Alex, to win the tournament, obviously, to bring honor to the department." "Chloe, and to win, you need the best debaters." "Correct." "Alex, that's right." "Chloe, which one better fits your definition of an excellent debater? One who can argue for a position they don't even believe in for the sake of victory, or one who will only defend what they believe to be true?" Alex didn't hesitate. "The former, of course. That shows cognitive flexibility and adaptability." "Excellent," Chloe smiled. "Then you already know that I am the latter. I am incapable of twisting my own convictions for the sake of a win. So, for a team whose sole objective is victory, would a member who cannot fully commit to team strategy and might defect at any moment because she disagrees with the premise be an asset or a liability? Alex was stunned. He realized he had walked right in her trap. If he said she was an asset, he'd be contradicting his own definition of an excellent debater. If he said she was a liability, he'd be admitting he never should have tried to recruit her in the first place. Chloe didn't give him time to think. She pressed on. A person who knows she would become a liability to the team because of conflicting principles, but joins anyway for the sake of so-called collective honor and personal gain, the prize money and credits. Or a person who clearly recognizes this fact and chooses to step aside so as not to drag the team down. Which of these two is truly selfish? Alex was speechless, unable to utter a single word. His prized debate techniques, his verbal traps and logical loops, were as fragile as paper in the face of Chloe's purely factual, emotionless assault. This wasn't a debate. It was a one-sided slaughter. Chloe looked at him and delivered the final blow. Alex, debate is a hobby of mine. Performance is not. Your temple is too small for my God. Goodbye. With that, she picked up her book and, to the awestruck gazes of everyone in the library, walked out. She left Alex standing there alone, his face cycling through shades of red and white. From that day on, no one in our department ever dared to talk to Chloe about collective honor again. Campus life, when you filter out all the drama, is actually pretty peaceful. Chloe stuck to her two-point routine between the library and the classroom. Aside from me, her desk mate, she had almost no interaction with anyone else. She was like an island, self-contained and perfectly content. Too bad someone always wants to build a toilet on your private island. This time, the trouble came from a girl named Lisa Lee. Lisa was our class's social chair, a sweet-looking girl who could sing and dance and was always surrounded by a flock of guys. Her greatest talent was playing the innocent, harmless, kind-hearted fairy in front of men. In the words of our late-night dorm room bull sessions, she was a professional two-face. I don't know what Chloe ever did to her. Maybe it was because Chloe was prettier, got better grades, and was a bigger topic of conversation. Whatever the reason, Lisa started going after her. At first, it was just petty stuff. After Chloe answered a question in class, Lisa would mutter under her breath, "What a show-off." Or she'd tell other girls behind her back, "Chloe is so cold and aloof, she's impossible to get along with." Chloe completely ignored her, treating her like thin air. Being ignored probably felt like a challenge to Lisa's charm, so she escalated her tactics. She started spreading subtle, insidious rumors about Chloe in our class GroupMe chat. It all started with a scholarship for students with financial need. To qualify, you had to have both excellent grades and a documented low family income. Chloe's grades were #1 in our year, so she was a natural candidate. She submitted her application, and our advisor gave it a preliminary approval. The day after the list of candidates was posted, Lisa sent a passive-aggressive message in the GroupMe. Wow, some people will do anything for money these days. Using a brand new laptop every day, but still applying for financial aid. What about the students who actually need it? Don't they have a conscience? She didn't name names, but everyone knew Chloe had just got a new MacBook. The chat immediately exploded. Who's that shameless? Applying for aid with a new computer? That's messed up. I know who she's talking about. Lol. And she always acts so high and mighty. I stared at the chat history, so angry I almost threw my phone. I had personally watched Chloe save up for that laptop, penny by penny, from her tutoring jobs and academic awards. I sent Chloe a private message, asking if she wanted me to set the record straight. She replied with 2 words, "Don't bother." Then, another message came through. "Let the bullets fly for a while." I didn't get what she meant, but seeing how calm she was, I held my tongue. When Chloe didn't respond, Lisa took it as a sign of guilt and grew bolder. She started adding more and more fabricated details, speaking with the authority of an eyewitness. I heard her parents are both in business. They own multiple properties. She's just trying to scam the system to buy luxury goods. I feel so bad for the students who are actually poor. Their spot is being taken. Her prodding worked. The chat was a frenzy of outrage. Several students started tagging our advisor, demanding a reevaluation of Chloe's eligibility. The advisor, caught in the middle, had to post a message saying he would look into the matter. Lisa had achieved her goal. She posted a pensive face emoji in the chat with the message, "I just can't stand to see stuff like this happen. I hope it doesn't affect our class unity." I almost threw up. For 2 whole days, Chloe said nothing in the group chat. She went to class, went to the library, as if the whole storm had nothing to do with her. Even I started to wonder if she was just going to let it go. Then, on Friday afternoon, Our advisor tagged everyone in the group me, announcing an emergency class meeting to discuss the results of the investigation into Chloe's scholarship eligibility. Lisa was the most enthusiastic of all, being the first to reply, "Got it." The atmosphere in the meeting was tense. The advisor asked Chloe to come to the front. She walked up to the podium, holding that trademark folder of hers. Lisa sat in the audience, a barely concealed smirk on her face, waiting for the show. "Regarding the questions about my eligibility for financial aid, I have 3 points to make." Chloe's voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the room. "First, my family situation." She took a stack of documents from her folder and put them on the projector. "This is my father's layoff notice from late last year. This is my mother's disability certificate and proof of low-income government assistance. And this is the deed to our only family property, which, as you can see, is a 500-square-foot subsidized rental apartment. I have provided the originals of all documents to our advisor for verification." The murmuring in the room died down. "Second, the money for my new laptop." She displayed a spreadsheet. "This is a detailed record of every scholarship I've received since freshman year, as well as the income from my 3 part-time jobs. The source and destination of every dollar are clearly noted. The money for the computer came entirely from my own legal labor and academic achievements. I see no problem with spending money that I earned." Lisa's expression started to shift. Third, Chloe's gaze landed directly on Lisa for the first time, regarding the slander. She took out her phone and connected it to the projector. An audio player interface appeared on the screen. "I didn't want to make things ugly, but since someone insisted on throwing mud at me, I have no choice but to present certain evidence." She pressed play. A clear female voice filled the room through the speakers. "Yeah, just tell them Chloe's family is super rich, like her parents own a company or something, and she's just applying for the scholarship to scam money." The voice was, without a doubt, Lisa Lee's. Another girl's voice could be heard on the recording. "Lisa, are you sure about this? We don't have any proof." Lisa's voice returned, dripping with scorn. "Who needs proof? She's new. Nobody knows her background. If I say it, everyone will believe me. I just can't stand that high and mighty act of hers. Why should she get all the good things? I'm going to ruin her reputation." The recording wasn't long, but it was damning. A dead silence fell over the classroom. Everyone stared at Lisa as if they'd seen a ghost. Lisa's face went chalk white. She had probably never dreamed that a private phone call she'd made would be recorded. "That was from last Wednesday, in the dorm hallway, during a call with your friend," Chloe stated calmly. "The academic buildings, the library, the dorms, all public areas have security cameras. If I wanted to, I could pull the footage to prove that you were the one on the phone at that time and place." "Lisa," Chloe turned off the audio, looking at the girl who was now slumped in her chair. "According to state law, public slander and fabrication of facts to defame another person is a misdemeanor, punishable by fines or even jail time. Furthermore, according to the university's code of conduct, slander, libel, and damaging another student's reputation can result in a formal reprimand, academic probation, or even expulsion. Right now, you have 2 choices. 1, you stand up immediately and offer a public apology to me, to the classmates you misled, and to our advisor. You will also write a formal apology of no less than 3,000 words and post it on the department's public bulletin board for 1 week. 2, we go to campus security right now, and then we file a police report. We'll let the authorities and the university handle this. I'll give you 30 seconds to decide." After she said that, Chloe actually looked down at her watch and began to count. 10, 9, 8. When she got to 3, Lisa let out a sob, scrambled out of her seat, and practically crawled to the front of the room, crying and apologizing to Chloe, to everyone. "I'm sorry. Chloe, I was wrong. I was just jealous of you. I made it all up. I'll never do it again. Please forgive me." It was a pathetic, ugly scene. Chloe looked at her, her expression holding no anger, no triumph, only a cold, dispassionate calm. "An apology is unnecessary. I don't need it. The written statement. How on my desk by 8 a.m. tomorrow." With that, she walked back to her seat. That was the day I finally understood what she meant by "let the bullets fly" for a while. She doesn't just counterattack, she waits. She waits for her opponent to play all their cards, to reach the peak of their arrogance, and then she takes them out with a single, perfectly aimed, long-prepared bullet. When dealing with a two-faced snake, arguing is useless. You have to skin them alive and leave them naked in the sun. After Lisa's public humiliation, no one dared to mess with Chloe for a long, long time. The way people looked at her had now upgraded from respectful fear to outright terror. It was as if she wasn't a college student, but the dean of students incarnate. My relationship with her, however, got better. She was actually pretty normal in private. We'd occasionally go to the library together and discuss coursework. Her logical mind was incredible. She could explain complex problems that stumped me in just a few sentences. I even started to have this illusion that maybe her armor of spikes only came out when she was faced with malice. I was once again too naive. Her spikes came out for anything that defied logic, whether it was born of malice or not. This time, the incident happened in P.E. class. Our elective this semester was badminton, taught by a recent grad who was super laid back. The final exam was a simple doubles match. Chloe and I were paired up. Chloe played badminton the same way she lived her life. Her form wasn't pretty, but every shot was precise, efficient, and landed in the most awkward spot for the opponent. Being on her team was easy. I mostly just had to stand back and watch. But our group also included two other girls, Sarah Sun and Jessica Wong. Sarah was in terrible physical shape. She'd be out of breath after jogging 2 steps and complained constantly. Jessica was her best friend, and they were always together. With the final exam approaching, Sarah was getting more and more anxious. The instructor had a strict rule. If you miss the final, you get an automatic 0 for the course. The day before the exam, Sarah sent a message in our class group chat saying she thought she had a fever and felt awful and probably couldn't make it to the exam tomorrow. Jessica immediately replied, "Oh no, Sarah, just get some rest. Your health is the most important thing. Don't worry about the exam." Then, Jessica started tagging the instructor in the chat, saying Sarah was really sick and asking if she could get an extension. The instructor, being a nice guy, said, "That's possible, but she'll need an official doctor's note from a clinic." The next day at the exam, Sarah was, predictably, absent. Jessica showed up with a doctor's note from a local urgent care clinic, which cited acute gastroenteritis. The instructor took it without a second thought and approved the medical leave. That should have been the end of it. But Jessica, the idiot, after getting it done, came over to where we were and started bragging to another girl. Pretty smart, right? I had my aunt write the note. She's a nurse at the clinic. Sarah's totally fine. She just didn't want to take the exam, was afraid she couldn't run. She wasn't speaking loudly, but by sheer bad luck, Chloe, who was stretching nearby, heard every word. I saw Chloe's eyebrow twitch, just barely. I knew someone was about to have a very bad day. Throughout the exam, Chloe didn't say a word. She just quietly played her part. We worked well together and easily got a high score. After it was over and everyone was packing up, Chloe walked over to the instructor. "Professor, I have something I need to talk to you about." She pulled him aside and spoke to him in a low voice. I was too far away to hear what she said, but I saw the instructor's expression change from friendly to serious, and finally, to shock. After their chat, Chloe left. The next morning, I was playing games in my dorm when I got a call from my academic advisor telling me Chloe, Sarah, and Jessica to come to the department office immediately. I showed up completely confused to find a very tense atmosphere. Sarah and Jessica were sitting in chairs, their eyes red and puffy from crying. The P.E. instructor and our advisor sat across from them, their faces grim. Chloe was sitting in a corner, calm as ever, looking like a bystander. As soon as I walked in, the advisor told me to sit down and slapped a piece of paper on the desk. "Leo, you were Chloe's partner, so you should be aware of this situation. Yesterday, during the P.E. final, Sarah's son requested medical leave for acute gastroenteritis, correct?" I nodded. However, the advisor continued, gesturing toward Chloe. Chloe reported to the instructor that there might be an issue with Sarah's medical leave. Sarah and Jessica shot Chloe a hateful glare. Jessica snapped defiantly. "On what grounds? Does she have any proof? We have a doctor's note." The advisor ignored her and looked at Chloe. "Chloe, please repeat what you told the instructor yesterday." Chloe stood up. I suspected Sarah was faking her illness based on the following logical deductions. She began, her delivery as measured as if she were presenting a thesis. First, the timing. For the past week, Sarah has frequently expressed anxiety and reluctance about the P.E. final on social media and in conversation. This establishes her motive for avoiding the exam. Sarah's face went pale. Second, the symptom description. The typical symptoms of acute gastroenteritis are diarrhea, vomiting, and abdominal pain, often accompanied by dehydration. The patient would be extremely weak. However, when Jessica requested leave on her behalf, she described the symptoms as a fever and feeling awful, which is inconsistent with the core symptoms of gastroenteritis. Third, and the most crucial piece of evidence. Yesterday, on the court, Jessica Wong personally admitted to another student that the note was fake, written by a relative, and that Sarah was not sick at all. Jessica shot up from her chair, pointing at Chloe. "You're lying. I never said that." That's slander. Chloe ignored her outburst and simply took out her phone, opening an audio file. I don't make a habit of recording people, but given that your conversation on the court yesterday took place very close to where my phone was sitting. She pressed play. Jessica's voice came through the speaker, crystal clear. Pretty smart, right? I had my aunt write the note. Jessica's face went from flushed red to ghostly white. You could hear a pin drop in the office. Sarah burst into tears. Professor, I'm sorry. I was just so scared of the test. Our advisor slammed his hand on the table. Unbelievable. This is absolutely unbelievable. This isn't just a bad attitude toward your studies. It's a serious ethical breach. Academic dishonesty. Do you understand how serious this is? The final verdict was that Sarah and Jessica, for forging a medical document and deceiving a faculty member, received a formal reprimand that was announced to the entire department. They were given a 0 for their P.A. grade and were disqualified from all academic honors for the year. As we were leaving the office, Jessica cornered Chloe, her eyes red with fury. What is wrong with you? Why are you such a busybody? So what if she faked being sick? It had nothing to do with you. Why did you have to report us? Chloe looked at her as if she were a toddler throwing a tantrum. First, your actions compromised the fairness of the exam. It was unfair to all the students who trained seriously and prepared for the final. Second, you abused the instructor's trust and kindness. A teacher's compassion should not be exploited by deceit. Third, Chloe paused, her voice taking on a stern edge I had never heard before. You used being sick as a convenient excuse. That is an insult to everyone who is truly suffering from illness. Life and health should not be treated so flippantly. I didn't report you because it had something to do with me. I reported you because what you did was wrong. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Jessica standing alone in the hallway, sobbing her heart out. I followed behind Chloe, speechless. I had always thought of her as a logic-driven AI, cold but efficient. It was only today that I realized that beneath that icy layer of logic and rules lay something deeper, an almost obsessive devotion to fairness and a profound sense of reverence. Messing with her was far more terrifying than messing with the dean. Time flew, and before we knew it, it was final season. The library was packed with students cramming to avoid failing their classes. Chloe, however, was as calm as ever. She had already mastered all the material weeks ago. So while everyone else was buried in books, she had the spare time to deal with other people's problems. This time, the trouble wasn't aimed at her. It was aimed at me. It started with a distant cousin of mine, Vince Liu. This cousin had been bad news since he was a kid, falling in with a rough crowd after middle school. Recently, he'd gotten into a fight and injured someone. The other guy was demanding $5,000 in damages, or he'd go to the police. Vince's parents, my aunt and uncle, were in a panic, borrowing money from everyone they knew. They were still $1,000 short, so they called my parents. My parents, being soft-hearted, figured he was family and lent them the money. Somehow Vince found out about this. He must have decided our family was an easy target because he showed up at my university looking for me. Bro, please. He cornered me at the campus gate, a mess of tears and snot. You gotta help me. I was taken aback. What's wrong with you? I'm still short $3,000. The guy said if I don't have the money by today, he's pressing charges for assault tomorrow. Bro, you can't just let me go to jail. I lost my temper. You think you're in the right after getting into a fight? Besides, I'm a student. Where am I supposed to get $3,000? You have it. His eyes lit up. My mom told me you got that big university scholarship last year for like $1,500, and you must have some savings. You could borrow a little from your friends. You could totally get it together. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Vince, are you insane? That scholarship was for my hard work. Why should I use it to clean up your mess? This is your problem. You solve it. I tried to walk away, but he grabbed my arm and started playing dirty. Bro, how can you be so heartless? I'm your cousin. We're blood. You're just going to stand by and watch me go to prison? How is I going to look to my parents, your aunt, and uncle? He started wailing, drawing the attention of students passing by. This was exactly the kind of thing I hated, blatant emotional blackmail. Just as I was trying to figure out how to get rid of him, a familiar voice sounded behind me. Leo, is this a relative of yours? I turned around. It was Chloe, holding a stack of books from the library. The moment Vince saw Chloe, his eyes widened. He immediately switched to a pitiful act, turning his sob story on her. Miss, you must be my cousin's friend, right? Please, help me talk some sense into him. I'm in real trouble. I just need $3 grand, or I'm going to get arrested. My cousin has the money. He just won't help me, boo-hoo. Chloe listened patiently until he was done. Then she walked up to him and asked, very seriously, You're saying someone is demanding $3,000 from you as compensation for an injury you caused, and if you don't pay, they'll call the police. Is that correct? Yes, yes. Vince nodded eagerly, thinking he'd found an ally. And you did, in fact, injure this person? Well, it was in the heat of the moment. So, to be clear, are you currently facing extortion or an accusation of assault? Chloe's choice of words was chillingly precise. Vince stared at her, confused. Huh? What? What do you mean? Chloe ignored him and turned to me. Leo, let me borrow your phone. I handed it to her. Right there, in front of Vince, she dialed 911. When the operator answered, Chloe's voice became crisp and official. Hello, 911. I'm at the main entrance of Northwood University. There's a gentleman here with me who claims he is the victim of an extortion attempt. Someone is threatening to involve the police unless he pays them $3,000. At the same time, he has also verbally admitted to committing an act of assault. The situation seems complex, potentially involving two separate criminal offenses. I believe it requires immediate police attention. Yes, our location is. Chloe reported the incident with the clarity and composure of a seasoned police officer on a TV show. My cousin Vince stood there completely dumbfounded. In his script, the pretty girl was supposed to take pity on him and help him guilt-trip me into giving him the money. How did the scene suddenly fast-forward to calling the cops? After hanging up, Chloe handed my phone back and looked at Vince with a very kind expression. Don't be afraid. The police are coming. They'll help sort everything out. If the other party is truly extorting you, the police will protect your rights, and you won't have to pay a dime. Of course, if you did assault someone, you will have to face the legal consequences for that as well. But that's okay. When you're in trouble, calling the police is the right thing to do. And don't worry, your cousin won't abandon you. He will act as a law-abiding citizen and cooperate fully with the police investigation, providing them with all the information he knows. Right, Leo? She turned to me and winked. I suppressed a laugh and nodded vigorously. Absolutely. Full cooperation. 100%. The color drained from Vince's face, then returned in blotchy shades of red and purple. His lips trembled as he stared at Chloe like she was a monster. You people, he stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. Just then, he saw the flashing lights of a campus security vehicle in the distance. He let out a strangled cry, pushed through the crowd of onlookers, and ran. He ran faster than I'd ever seen him run in his life. Watching his pathetic retreat, I finally burst out laughing. Chloe, you're a genius. Chloe adjusted the books in her arms. With people like that, she said calmly, if you talk about family, they'll talk about their problems. If you talk about their problems, they'll talk about the law. So, I just helped him expedite the legal process. He wanted to use the threat of going to jail to blackmail you, right? So I helped him make that a reality. I looked at her with pure admiration. I used to think emotional blackmail was an impossible trap because it preys on your feelings. But Chloe taught me a valuable lesson that day. The best way to fight emotional blackmail is to discard emotion entirely and go straight to the law. Because in the face of cold, hard statutes, all the family cards and pity plays are worth absolutely nothing. Finals week is the most stressful time at any university, and it's also when all the ghouls and goblins come out of play. There are always those people who skip class all semester and then try to get clever in the exam room. Our university physics class this semester was notoriously difficult. The professor was a meticulous old-school academic who ran his exams like a military operation. But even that didn't deter some from trying to test his limits. This particular challenger was our class's athletic rep, Mike Wong. Mike was built like his name, big, brawny, and with a head full of muscle. He was perpetually failing physics, and if he bombed this final, he'd have to retake the course. On the day of the exam, my seat wasn't far from Chloe's, and I had a clear view of Mike's desk. Not even 30 minutes into the test, I saw him start fidgeting. He was scratching his head, picking at his ear, his eyes darting constantly toward the exam paper of a known genius sitting in front of him. My stomach dropped. The guy was going to cheat. Sure enough, the moment the professor walked to the back of the room, Mike quickly pulled a tiny, wadded-up piece of paper from his pocket, unfolded it, and started copying. He was being sneaky, but unfortunately for him, his desk was in Chloe's diagonal line of sight. All she had to do was glance up. I saw Chloe's pen pause for a fraction of a second. She looked up, her face blank, glanced at Mike, and then looked back down at her paper and continued writing. I sighed internally. Mike Wong's college career, I knew, was probably about to come to a premature end. About halfway through the exam, Chloe suddenly raised her hand. The professor walked over to her and asked quietly, "Yes? Is there a problem?" Chloe pointed to her exam paper, her voice low but audible to those of us nearby. "Professor, I think there might be an issue with question 15. The value given for the initial kinetic energy of the particle seems incorrect. Using this number, the result is a negative value, which is physically impossible. The professor looked puzzled. He picked up her paper, studied it, then took out a notepad and scribbled some calculations. His expression suddenly changed, and he slapped his forehead. Oh my goodness! You're right. I misplaced the decimal point when I wrote the question. He hurried to the front of the room, picked up a piece of chalk, and began writing a correction on the blackboard. Attention, everyone! There is an error in question 15. The correct value is... Every student in the room looked up at the blackboard. At that exact instant, Chloe raised her hand again. This time, she stood up. Professor, I need to report something. That student over there is cheating. Her finger was pointed directly at Mike Wong. Every head in the room swiveled in his direction. Mike, who had been frantically trying to stuff his cheat sheet back into his pocket, froze solid. The little ball of paper slipped from his grasp and fell to the floor with a soft tap. The evidence was right there, undeniable. The professor's face turned thunderous. He strode over and snatched the paper off the floor. It was covered in tiny, handwritten formulas. You, what is your name? The professor demanded, his hands trembling with rage. Mike's face was ashen. He couldn't speak. The aftermath was predictable. Mike's exam was confiscated on the spot, his score recorded as a 0, and he was escorted out of the room. He would be facing, at minimum, a formal reprimand for academic dishonesty, and possibly even expulsion. After the exam, as we were leaving the building, Mike's buddies cornered Chloe in the hallway. The one in the lead, a guy with bleached blonde hair, got in her face. What the hell is wrong with you? He snarled. You get off on reporting people? Mike was just trying to pass. How did that affect you? Chloe looked at them, her expression as calm as ever. First, his actions did not affect me. They affected every student who studied honestly for this exam. It was unfair to them. Second, I was not getting any pleasure from it. I was fulfilling my duty. The exam regulations clearly state that students have a responsibility to uphold the integrity of the examination and to report any instances of cheating. The blonde guy was taken aback by her formal tone, which only made him angrier. Don't give me that bullshit. I'm telling you, you made life hard for Mike, so we're going to make life hard for you. It was a direct threat. I quickly stepped in front of Chloe, ready to de-escalate. But Chloe gently pulled me aside, took out her phone, and right in front of them, opened the camera and hit record. Could you repeat what you just said? I didn't quite hear you. She aimed the camera directly at the blonde guy's face. You said you were going to make life hard for me at this school. His bravado instantly deflated. What? Why are you recording? He stammered. Nothing important, Chloe said, putting her phone away. Just collecting evidence. In case I happen to accidentally fall down the stairs sometime soon, or find the tires on my bike slashed, I can submit this video to the police as primary evidence of your threats and intimidation. Oh, by the way, everything that happened in the exam room was also captured perfectly by the classroom security camera. The reason I chose to report him at the exact moment everyone was looking at the blackboard was to ensure the camera had a clear, unobstructed view of Mike's actions and the cheat sheet falling to the floor. This way, he would have zero ground for denial. The reason I chose to record you the moment you threatened me was also to ensure you have zero ground for denial. I'm not a person who likes to argue. I prefer to let the cameras and the evidence do the talking. The blonde guy and his friends looked at each other, their faces a mixture of fear and confusion. In the end, they didn't say another word. They just turned and scurried away. I stared at Chloe, my perception of her shifting once again. She wasn't just logical and rule-bound. She was a master strategist. From the moment she saw Mike cheating, she had already mapped out every possible outcome in her head. How to report it for maximum effect. How to counter the inevitable retaliation. Every step was calculated, calm, and lethal. This wasn't just taking an exam. This was playing a grandmaster-level game of chess. And the rest of us were just pawns on her board. News of Mike getting caught cheating spread like wildfire. Chloe's reputation as the iron-faced judge was now set in stone. At this point, no one would dare cross her. I thought that would be the end of the campus drama, finding its way to her. But I forgot about one of the most deeply ingrained bad habits in university life, having someone else sign in for you at a lecture. It was especially common in big, unimportant elective courses where the professors were lax. A lot of students would just Venmo someone $5 or $10 to shout here for them during roll call. That afternoon, we had a comparative study of Eastern and Western cultures. The professor was a slow-moving old man who never took attendance and based the entire grade on a final paper. As a result, the lecture hall was mostly empty. Chloe and I were among the few who showed up consistently. I was there out of sheer boredom. She was genuinely interested in the subject. Halfway through the class, my phone buzzed. It was a message from the class president, Mark Lee, in our group me. At everyone urgent. The registrar's office is doing a surprise attendance check for this class right now. If you're not here, you better figure something out. Attendance will affect your final grade. The chat exploded. WTF? Are you serious? I'm in the middle of a league match. I'm so screwed. I'm asleep in my dorm. Anyone in the lecture hall? Can you sign in for me? I'll Venmo you. The chat was flooded with desperate pleas and offers of cash. Chloe, sitting next to me, saw the messages. She just frowned slightly and said nothing. Soon, some of the students in the room started claiming people in the chat. I got you, Lisa. I'll cover Mike. A guy named Kyle Liu, a well-known nice guy in our class, tagged Chloe. At Chloe, hey, Chloe, the genius. Can you cover my roommates who aren't here? They'll send you a nice big tip. Chloe looked at the message, then typed a reply on her phone. She responded to Kyle in the group chat. I can. The chat erupted in celebration. Chloe for the win. See, I told you she was nice deep down. Kyle, relieved, sent a thank you emoji. Then, Chloe sent another message. I can sign in for them, but I have a clear price structure for my services. The chat went quiet for a moment. Kyle asked, what's the price? Chloe replied, it's simple. When you ask me to fraudulently sign in for you, you are asking me to commit an act of academic dishonesty in your name. The risk associated with this action is a permanent black mark on your academic integrity record. This black mark could affect your future applications for honors, graduate school, or even your ability to graduate. Therefore, the price you must pay is equivalent to the potential value of what you are risking. My pricing is as follows. The market value of a guaranteed spot in a top graduate program is roughly between $50,000 and $100,000. The value of an honor scholarship is between $1,000 and $5,000. A clean integrity record for future employment has an implicit value that is impossible to calculate. Therefore, my price for signing in for you once is $20,000 per person. If you find this price acceptable, private message me and transfer the funds now. Once payment is received, I will answer here for you. I do not offer credit. After that message was sent, the entire class group me fell into a silence that lasted for 3 full minutes. Everyone was stunned by Chloe's pricing. $20,000 to sign in for someone? Were her vocal cords made of gold? After a long pause, Kyle finally typed a shaky reply. Chloe, you're joking, right? Chloe, do I look like I'm joking? You want me to risk my own academic reputation to cover for your academic fraud, and you think a $5 Venmo payment is fair compensation? Tell me, are you insane? Or do you think I'm an idiot? My time and my integrity are very expensive, a price you can't afford. Just then, 2 administrators from the registrar's office appeared at the door, holding a class roster. They began to call out names. Kevin Zhang, here. Lisa Lee, here. The roll call continued. In the group me, not a single person dared to tag Chloe again. The students who had skipped class could only watch helplessly as their names were marked with a big red X. At that moment, watching the serene expression on Chloe's face, I had only one thought. She wasn't being petty. She was just using the most extreme, direct method possible to teach everyone a simple lesson. Everything has a cost. If you want to take a shortcut, be prepared to pay the price. And don't ever expect someone else to gamble their future on your lazy little scheme. The final major hurdle of the semester was the term paper for a comparative study of Eastern and Western cultures. The old professor's requirements were simple. 3,000 words. Choose your own topic, no plagiarism. For most people, this meant a frantic copy-paste job, stitching together bits and pieces from the internet. But for Chloe, every task was treated with terrifying seriousness. She started her research 2 weeks in advance, spending hours in the library, and wrote a paper that was both rigorous and insightful. Our dorm's resident slacker, Andy Chunk Zhao, was not so fortunate. He completely forgot about the paper until the night before it was due. Panicked, he started looking for a shortcut. Knowing I was on good terms with Chloe, he came to beg me. Leo, my man, my brother, help me out. Can you let me borrow Chloe's paper to reference? I swear, just to get a feel for the format and ideas. Of course, I refused. Are you kidding? Giving him Chloe's paper would be like feeding a lamb to a wolf. Chunk begged and pleaded, but I wouldn't budge. In the end, he somehow managed to get a digital copy of her paper from another girl. That night, he hunched over his computer, working secretively for hours. The next morning, he smugly submitted his paper. I had a bad feeling about it and warned him, dude, don't do anything stupid. If you copy Chloe's paper, you'll definitely get caught. Chunk puffed out his chest. Don't worry, I'm smart. I ran it through a bunch of those paraphrasing websites. It shuffled all the sentences and swapped out a ton of words with synonyms. There's no way anyone can tell. I was skeptical, but what was done was done. A week later, the grades were posted. Chloe got an A+. I got a B. Chunk got an F. And his name was plastered on the department's online bulletin board under the heading Academic Misconduct Report. The report was brutally clear. Andy Zhao, in his term paper for Seat CC 301, was found to have engaged in severe plagiarism, with a similarity index of 92%. The source of the plagiarism has been verified as the work of his classmate, Chloe Jiang. Mr. Zhao will receive a grade of 0 for the course, and this incident will be noted on his permanent academic record. Chunk was in shock. He couldn't understand how he'd been caught after using software to rewrite it. And how could they be so precise? 92%. He stormed off to find Chloe and confront her. Chloe, did you report me? I've never done anything to you. Why would you screw me over like this? We were studying together at the time. Chloe didn't even bother to look up from her book. I didn't report you. Then who did? My paper did. Chunk was completely lost. What does that mean? How can a paper report someone? Chloe finally put down her book and looked at him like he was an idiot. Do you really think those so-called paraphrasing tools can fool a professional plagiarism detection system? She opened her laptop, revealing a complex program interface. The paper I submitted to the professor was the final version. But during my writing process, I created 13 different drafts. I uploaded every single version, from the first rough outline to the final copy, to an international academic integrity database, which generated a time-stamped digital copyright certificate for each one. Furthermore, she opened another file. I used a special digital watermarking technique. I embedded a unique, invisible digital marker within my paper. This marker persists even if you rearrange sentences, replace synonyms, or even translate the text into another language and back again. All anyone has to do is run your paper and any one of my drafts through a forensic analysis program, and the digital watermark is instantly detected. The evidence of plagiarism is 100% conclusive. There is no plausible deniability. Chunk listened dumbfounded. He probably didn't even know what a digital watermark was. So, Chloe concluded, looking him straight in the eye, the moment I submitted my paper, it became a trap. Anyone who tried to plagiarize it would spring that trap. I didn't need to report you. Your own stupidity and laziness caused you to walk right into the snare I had already set. Oh, and by the way, she added, the 92% similarity index came from the university's standard turn-in software. My own forensic software shows that 98.7% of your paper's content originated directly or indirectly from my drafts. Your little paraphrasing efforts are, to an algorithm, a complete joke. Chunk's face had turned a deep shade of purple. He wanted to argue, but he couldn't find the words. In the face of Chloe's technological and intellectual superiority, any defense was useless. He finally just turned and walked away in disgrace. I stared at the complex program on Chloe's screen and swallowed hard. Was that really necessary? I asked. For an elective course paper? Chloe closed her laptop and looked at me seriously. Leo, it has nothing to do with the class. This is the product of my labor. Every word, every comma, was paid for with my time and effort. I respect my own work. Therefore, I expect others to respect it as well. You don't need to be polite to a thief. Your only job is to build a stronger cage. At that moment, I understood. She wasn't just preventing plagiarism. She was defending the fundamental dignity of a creator. Before summer break, the Student Government Association organized a charity clothing drive for underprivileged communities in Appalachia. The idea was for students to donate their old clothes, which the SGA would then ship out. It was a good cause in theory. The SGA president, Todd Zhou, gave an emotional speech at the kickoff event, painting himself as a selfless saint dedicated to helping the less fortunate. Students were very enthusiastic, dropping off huge bags of clothes at the collection points. I gathered up a few t-shirts I didn't wear anymore and was about to head over. I asked Chloe if she was going. She shook her head. I'm not. Why not? I was surprised. It seems like a meaningful thing to do. Chloe glanced at me and asked, are you sure those clothes will actually make it to the people who need them? I paused. What do you mean? You think the SGA would steal the clothes? Not steal exactly, Chloe said, but I suggest you go on Facebook Marketplace and search for Todd Zhou's profile. Dubious, I pulled out my phone and did a search. I couldn't believe what I saw. Todd Zhou's Marketplace profile was filled with listings for dozens of items of clothing. Jackets, hoodies, brand name sneakers, trendy t-shirts. And a lot of them looked familiar. They were the exact same items I'd seen other students donating just a few days earlier. Holy crap, I got it instantly. This guy, Todd, was using the charity drive as a front. He was sorting through the donations, picking out all the best, newest clothes, and selling them online for cash. The actual old clothes were probably what he shipped out, if he shipped anything at all. This wasn't charity. This was a scam to get free inventory for his side hustle. That's disgusting. I cursed. Chloe, we can't just let this slide. Of course not, she said calmly. I've already screenshotted his entire profile. Over the next 2 days, Chloe did something no one expected. She printed hundreds of flyers. The content was simple, a side-by-side comparison of screenshots from Todd's marketplace listings and the official charity clothing drive poster. Beneath the images was a single line of bold text. Ever wonder where your charity really goes? Then, she hired a few students for a campus job, paying them to plaster these flyers everywhere: dorm lobbies, dining hall entrances, academic building bulletin boards. The campus erupted. Everyone suddenly realized their goodwill had been turned into someone else's profit. Todd became a public enemy overnight. The SGA was thrown into a crisis, and the university administration immediately launched an investigation. At first, Todd tried to deny it, claiming the clothes were his own. But Chloe was prepared. She had already contacted a dozen students who had donated distinctive items, asking them to create a comparison chart with photos of them wearing the clothes next to screenshots of Todd's online listings. The evidence was irrefutable. Todd had no choice but to confess to using his position to embezzle donated goods. The final outcome was that Todd was removed from his position as SGA president and received a severe formal reprimand on his record. The so-called charity clothing drive was shut down by the university, which also ordered a full audit of the SGA's finances. After the dust settled, I asked Chloe, "Aren't you afraid of making an enemy of the SGA president? What if he tries to make your life difficult?" Chloe was reading a book called Currency Wars and didn't look up. First, he's no longer the president, so he has no opportunity to do so. Second, even if he were, I wouldn't be afraid. Why? Because when a person uses noble concepts like charity and compassion to disguise their own filthy greed, they have already made an enemy of everyone. He didn't offend me. He offended every person who acted with good intentions. What I did wasn't an attack on him. I simply tore off the wrapping paper to let everyone see what was inside. She paused, closed her book, and looked at me, saying something that stuck with me for a long time. True kindness isn't cheap sympathy or self-congratulation. True kindness is precise, efficient, and requires oversight. The next time there's a drive like this, she tapped the book, remember to ask for receipts and shipping manifests. Any charity that isn't transparent is just a scam. I looked at her and suddenly felt that she was 1,000 times more noble than all the phonies in the student government, with their mouths full of service and their pockets full of cash. Her coldness was a shield for true warmth. At the end of the semester, Chloe and I both stayed on campus to work on a competitive research project. The university provided housing for the students who remained. With fewer people around, the dorm supervisors were more relaxed, and sometimes people from off-campus would wander in. And that's how we encountered one of the most terrifying species in the university ecosystem, the unruly child and his entitled parent. It was a Saturday afternoon. Chloe and I were in our dorm common room, discussing a data model when a deafening racket of running and screaming erupted from the hallway. A boy of about 7 or 8 was using the corridor as his personal playground, sprinting back and forth and kicking every door he passed. He slammed his foot into our door with a loud bang. My temper flared. I threw the door open and confronted his mother. "Ma'am, could you please watch your kid? This is a dormitory. People are trying to study and rest." The woman, who was snacking on sunflower seeds, barely glanced up. "Oh, relax. He's just a kid, full of energy. What's wrong with you college students? No compassion at all. Why are you picking on a child?" Her twisted logic left me speechless. He can be full of energy on the playground. The hallway is a public space, not your living room. "Hey, watch your tone, kid. What's the big deal if my son plays here for a bit? It's not like anyone got hurt. You kids must be studying so hard your brains have turned to mush." The kid, seeing his mom was winning, got even cockier. He made a face at me and then spat on the floor near my feet. My fist clenched. Just as I was about to really let her have it, Chloe appeared behind me. She had a very kind smile on her face. She walked over to the boy, crouched down, and spoke in an incredibly gentle voice. "Hi there, what's your name?" The boy, seeing how pretty Chloe was and how nicely she spoke, shyly mumbled, "My name's Donnie." "Donnie, that's a great name." Chloe smiled and patted his head. "Can I ask you a question? A minute ago, did you use your foot to kick this door?" Donnie nodded. "Well, I'm going to tell you a secret." Chloe's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "This dormitory building used to be the university's physics laboratory, and this door is a special, lead-lined, anti-radiation door." Donnie's mom snorted from the side. "Yeah, right. Keep making stuff up." Chloe ignored her, her focus entirely on Donnie. "Lead, UC is a toxic heavy metal. When you kicked the door so hard, you shook loose tiny particles of lead dust, which are now stuck to your shoes, your pants, and your skin. She pointed to Donnie's sneakers. See all that dust on your shoes? Some of it could be lead. Donnie looked down at his shoes, his eyes starting to widen with fear. And lead poisoning is very, very scary. Chloe's tone turned serious. At first, your tummy will hurt and you won't want to eat. Then, your hair will start to fall out in big clumps and you'll go bald. After that, your brain will get very slow and you won't be able to remember anything your teacher says. You'll get a 0 on every test. But the scariest part of all, Chloe leaned in close, whispering directly into his ear, is that your little willy. It will start to get smaller and smaller and smaller until one day it might disappear completely. The color drained from Donnie's face. He glanced down at his crotch, then back at the door, and let out a blood-curdling scream. He started crying, frantically brushing at the dust on his clothes. "Mommy, I don't want to be bald. I don't want my willy to disappear. Take me home. I need a shower." His mom was stunned, staring at her hysterical son and then back at Chloe's perfectly innocent expression, completely at a loss. What nonsense are you telling him? You're scaring him." Chloe stood up, her face returning to its usual placid calm. "Whether I'm talking nonsense or not, you can look it up yourself. The dangers of lead poisoning are clearly detailed on Wikipedia. Of course, I can't be certain if this is really an anti-radiation door. But let me ask you, ma'am, are you willing to bet your son's future potential for baldness, intellectual disability, and impotence on the chance that I was just making it all up?" The entitled parent was speechless. She looked at her son, who was now sobbing uncontrollably, and all of her earlier arrogance vanished. In the end, she snatched him up and hurried away, muttering curses under her breath. The hallway was finally quiet. I closed the door and gave Chloe 2 enthusiastic thumbs up. "Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You have to fight fire with fire. With unruly kids and their entitled parents, reasoning is useless," Chloe said plainly. "You have to use what they actually care about to scare them. They don't care about public order or other people's feelings, but they definitely care about their own kid's IQ and his future manhood." I nodded in complete agreement. Then a thought struck me. "So, is that door actually lead-lined?" Chloe glanced at me, the corner of her mouth twitching into a rare, sly smile. "What do you think?" The research project was a success, winning first place in the state competition at the end of the summer. As a new semester began, Chloe became, unsurprisingly, a legend in our department. Stories about her circulated among the freshmen, with enough variations to fill a book. Some said she was a debate champion who had transferred from the law school. Others claimed she was a genius hacker from the computer science department. A few even whispered that she was the secret daughter of a university trustee, with connections so powerful she was untouchable. Only I knew the truth. She was none of those things. She was just a normal girl who happened to live with more clarity and insight than anyone I had ever met. In our junior year, she was awarded a spot in an exchange program at a top international university. Before she left, our class threw a small farewell party for her. It was the same cast of characters. Mark Lee, the class president she had silenced, was now politely wishing her a bright future. Lisa Lee, the social chair she had nearly gotten expelled, was smiling and clinking her juice glass against Chloe's, saying they should totally keep in touch. Everyone she had ever systematically dismantled was now gathered around her, offering hollow, superficial blessings. Chloe was the same as always, polite but distant, engaging but detached. The scene felt deeply ironic. These people would probably go their whole lives without understanding why they had lost to her. They hadn't lost to her debating skills, her schemes, or her tactics. They had lost to her unshakable foundation of logic, a logic built on respecting rules, respecting facts, respecting her own labor, and respecting the boundaries of others. In a world awash with social niceties, emotional blackmail, and a willingness to compromise the truth for the sake of peace, she lived as an anomaly. A cold, precise, and yet incredibly powerful anomaly. After the party, I gave her a ride to the airport. On the way, I finally asked her a question that had been on my mind for years. "Chloe, isn't it exhausting? Living like you do?" I elaborated. "You always have to gather so much evidence, do so much prep work, just to deal with people and situations that honestly aren't worth your time. Don't you think it would be easier to just let things slide sometimes?" Chloe watched the city lights streak past the car window, silent for a long moment. Then she turned to me, her expression serious. "Leo, you know what the most exhausting way to live is? It isn't being clear-eyed. It's being fully aware of the truth, but pretending to be ignorant for the sake of fitting in, for the sake of what other people think, for the sake of some vague notion of keeping the peace. It's knowing someone is wrong, but smiling and nodding along. It's being deeply annoyed, but saying it's okay. It's knowing you can end a problem in one move, but choosing to swallow your pride and let it fester inside you until you're consumed by it. That, she said, is what's truly exhausting.